Hello everybody, welcome to the Anonymity Tales episode 2, and with me is the most notoriously closeted weeb ever known on YouTube, Lewis Lavelle.
I don't think that's true.
Well, it's not that true, but you know, looks like that to some people. How you doing, man?
I suppose. I'm fine. How about yourself?
Fine, how's notoriety treating you? Because you've angered a few people.
Yeah, apparently so. I've made a certain group of people shitless, and that'll last for as long as they find any kind of entertainment in it.
I mean, well, technically there is entertainment in it, but you're not going to take the bait, I assume.
No. I mean, the thing is that I haven't really any of the people that have like tried to quote unquote call me out, and there's been several people that I've had their names given to me, but they've never contacted me. So I don't really see what I can really do to continue any kind of drama when it doesn't really go anywhere.
So, like, part of the podcast is to get to know the guests. So, what I want to know is, what made you choose YouTube? Like, what made you want to do this?
I would say that ultimately, I've always had a need to do things creatively, and there was I was doing video editing when I was in community college, and I just decided that I could always just upload things to YouTube, and I think that overall, like watching other people do it and then deciding, I could do that, and just that's pretty much where it started.
Interesting. So, who are your influences, would you say?
Probably like one of the oldest in terms of influencers would be TJ Kirk, which is the Amazing Atheist. He's been around for a very long time. Thunderfoot is another one, despite the fact that I don't like him anymore.
Oh, me and you both, mate.
Yeah, there's a few people like that that are like been on YouTube forever.
So how about people that we wouldn't know? Like, or maybe more obscure people that you still watch?
There probably are more obscure people, but the issue is that I've followed and unfollowed people, for quite a while, and I would say that any of the ones that would be more obscure, I probably have forgotten at this point. The only one, actually, there wasn't another one who's been making videos for a very long time that probably inspired me to do the same was James Rolfe, otherwise known as the Angry Video Game Nerd. He's been doing videos for even longer than TJ Kirk.
He's been a YouTube staple since 2000, well, not 5, but 2006. And before that, he was on Newgrounds, wherever that was.
Oh God, what was it? He wasn't on Newgrounds. He had it was on another website. You are right. I'm just trying to remember what it was, but he was on one other website. Then he was on Screw Attack when that still existed.
I think that's what it was. I think at least when I first heard of him.
But he was also on YouTube. There was a lot of his videos on YouTube. I don't know if they were like fan uploads or if it was him doing it. But I followed him, and he's had his own website, Cinemassacre, for a very long time. So I would say if anyone pioneered like the online rants, he would probably be the prototype. He would be the guy that started the whole thing, because he spawned an entire genre of like copycats and people that like emulate him. They don't copy him but emulate him, and Angry Joe is one of those people, and so are the people from like that guy in the glasses from forever ago.
Do you remember Irate Gamer?
I know the name, but I don't think I ever watched him.
He was the most notorious copycat. Like,
okay.
He was even accused, I think there was evidence of him lifting jokes from Rolf. That was something that was quite funny. But like, so you started doing this in 2014, am I right? I think that's when I first...
2014, 2015 maybe. I can't quite remember exactly when I started
I knew that I watched you because Sargon, I think, shouted you out. And then I was like, who is this guy? He's basically me, apart from the fact that he's a bit more imperialist. Well, way more imperialist.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been around for about as long as I've actually had more than one account, but the former accounts that I have don't exist anymore. And they weren't really anything special. It was only after Gamergate and when Sargon started doing things that I decided, you know what, I should just use an alias, and I just started uploading again just because I thought at the time, why not?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Wholesome Foxboy, this stream is sponsored by JList and PlayAsia. I mean, they're number ones. What would you be called? You're not a sponsor. They're your sponsor. What are you, a sponsoree?
It's an affiliate. It's
you're
actually
the affiliate.
There's no real communication between the two parties, so it's just an affiliation.
So is it Amazon basically? That's what it's like, isn't it? The Amazon affiliate link.
Yeah, it's just the company wants more people going in and potentially placing orders, so they just give you the ability to have an affiliate link, which for every person that clicks the link, it recognizes that, and if they place an order, then you get a percentage of the purchase. But it just depends on which outlet in terms of how much or to what degree that you're compensated.
Got it. So, like, what made you choose those two out of all the other like affiliate links you could have chose? Because this is the one that really does make you look like a weeb.
Yeah, well, it's because I noticed that for a long time that and it's still true to this day, that there's a lot of people that will affiliate link to websites. I mean, this is before Patreon and all that, when all that took over. This is back when there was a lot of sponsored content, or there was just affiliate links. Especially on podcasts, they would push it, and they still do. Like, if you watch any podcasts from like Bill Burr or Ben Shapiro or any of the others, like, they'll have an entire minute during the podcast where they'll just dedicate it to advertising to affiliate links. And the problem was it was the same few websites over and over and over again. Like, one of the websites I never wanted to advertise ever was Audible. There's a few. Yeah, not Audible, just because there's so many people that push it and push it and push it. And I decided, you know what, I need to find two or more websites that I can use that are more niche, that most people aren't using, and that I would be able to use myself. And, that way it's not just some disconnect of, well, here's this service, Dollar Shave Club. I don't fucking use it, but yeah, go earn me some money by going there, and I'm going to push it for a minute straight. I didn't really like the way that other outlets were handling it, and I decided to use two smaller links, especially because PlayAsia had heavy ties to Gamergate.
Did they now?
Yeah, they did. They basically got in a lot of trouble because they were planning on being one of the few sources, at least at the time, for the uncensored edition of Dead or Alive Extreme 3, that there was a big push by progressives in gaming to have that game not even come to the West. That appeared to be the goal, was to prohibit it from coming to the West by controlling all the platforms it could possibly be on. And PlayAsia stepped up and said, fuck you, and we're going to handle it. And that's what won over a lot of people, was because, they didn't cater to censorship.
I don't really remember that one. Wait, are they the ones... Oh, wait, was that Dead or Alive, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dead or Alive Extreme 3.
So are they
volleyball game?
They're affiliated with the company that made it, right? I think.
No, they're not. They're an independent distributor. They just sell products.
They're Japanese, right? They're not Western.
I think they're a combination. They have people that sell things to the West, but they are overall, I think, a Japanese company, because they do sell a lot of products that are not in English.
So what about JList then? What do they specialize in?
JList is just a variety of like really, really niche things that relate to like weebs. So cosplay, clothing, merchandise like statues, Japanese imported food, anime, and specifically visual novels, because the guy that owns JList also owns Jast USA, which is a visual novel localizer.
So they're the kind of localizers that won't change it for politics.
No, I mean the owner himself does appear to be somewhat left-leaning. I mean, just based on the vague politics that I've picked up, but he appears to be really unscathed by a lot of the progressive politics that has pretty much consumed the Western industry and most localization teams, as far as I can tell.
So, like, how does it work for you? Do you actually get some income from that? Is it substantial, or is it kind of meager, or in the middle?
Yeah, it really depends on how hard I push it. The more I push it, the more I make. When I used to do those sort of like wacky advertisements, which I admittedly haven't done in a while, no, I haven't really done any of the wacky ones like I used to in quite a while. I used to make quite a bit to that. You know, there'd be months where I'd make a few $100s from that, just based on, because the thing is with Play Asia, it's a lot of small orders. With Jest, it's a lot of big orders. There's a lot of people that'll go on the website and spend a couple $100s, and if you have enough times where people do that in a month, it adds up quick. So I can't begin to say, and I've told Sargon of Akkad, I've told him numerous times that he should have affiliate accounts linked to his channel, but he doesn't do it.
Yeah, I think the problem is that he just can't be asked. He's just
too lazy.
Yeah, he's too satisfied with his Patreon. Like, you know, that'll do. I don't have to. Well, he doesn't have to even spread the link. He doesn't even need to shill it in every video. He just kind of leaves it there, and people click on it, and he gets donations. He's fine, and yeah, he is lazy. Or maybe it's just the time. You know what he's like? He can't even organize something.
No, I think it's a lazy thing, honestly, because I've talked to him about it more than once, and it appears to be just a laziness factor, because it requires a second more time than just Patreon just straight up handing you the dollars. But what's convenient about Patreon now, especially, is that the ad rate on YouTube is dead. Like, you're lucky to make like $1 in a month based off of ads at this point.
Depending on how big you are and how many people you can get.
Oh, I don't even think that if you're really big, I mean, you'd have to be fucking PewDiePie level just to make, you know, $100 at this point. It's so low. It's so abysmally low that I can't believe it.
And it's their own fault. It's them who are doing it. They're purposefully doing that.
Yeah, they had the decision to step up when the time counted, and they failed, and they just backed down. They have twice before, so they're pretty much where they are. And in terms of the profitability of YouTube, it's ultimately up to them if they want to do it or not. They appear to be trying to shift towards a subscription model or a half-baked subscription model.
Yeah, I don't like that. They're not even like Netflix. YouTube's never been like Netflix, will never be like Netflix, and it's pointless to try and compete with it. Why are they trying to compete with well, not a network, but a company and a platform that isn't even remotely like theirs? YouTube's for the user, Netflix is for the companies or anybody who can get the funding.
It's pretty ridiculous that YouTube thinks that they're going to step up to that level. They should be focusing, and there is a portion of YouTube that is focusing on streams, on super chats, on bettering the interaction between a user and a host. They appear to have some grasp of what the company should actually be heading in the direction of. That is incredibly profitable for them. But I think ultimately with YouTube, they have been in the red. They haven't been profitable for so long that I think that ultimately it requires in some ways a top-down approach where you need to clean out a lot of the upper management in order to better it.
It's never going to happen, though, is it? Because it's all the people from Google, and they all think the same way. So we could get Susan fired somehow, but she'll just be replaced by another Googleite.
Well, that's the thing. Ultimately, is ultimately what has to happen is somebody likely from Alphabet, which is the parent company to Google, would have to basically have the understanding that YouTube could be turning more of a profit than it currently is, or what have you. The user interface or the user interaction, like it's losing people. But the issue is that YouTube is growing and growing and growing by all estimation. Facebook and other outlets are dying. YouTube is just continuously growing. The problem is that they don't have the proper management in position to actually be able to take advantage of that and then have real competition in comparison to outlets more like Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch is the actual competition. And what you said when they're going in the streaming direction, but also the Netflix direction, I think they don't really know, from what I can gather from what you said, they can't really decide which direction they want to go into. So instead of doing both, what do you think on that?
They ultimately have this position where they want to act as some sort of entity that's going to attract producers, content producers that are more professional, such as Disney. They want to attract those kind of companies to publish material on their website. But the problem is that the position that Netflix operates in, Hulu, all the rest down the line, and now Amazon is apparently getting into that as well, they're never going to be in that position.
No.
But the problem is that some portion of the company, and it's likely from the upper management, they think they're somehow going to chip off a piece of that pie when the exact opposite appears to be happening. That Netflix and the few others seem to be completely consolidating that entire market. Whereas with YouTube, it has a growing market, but it has nothing to do with, publishing documentaries or, receiving some sort of new kids show for Disney that you're going to publish online only, or clips of it on YouTube. It's like they think that somehow with HBO and Bill Maher. Bill Maher has this, the after section of his show that he publishes on YouTube, and that is because of YouTube petitioning HBO to do that. It's so that they have this cross connection between HBO as a content publisher or producer, even because of half the shit they publish they made themselves. They want to have that interaction between that company because they want to attract some kind of like erudite, like middle class audience of like older people that they think is somehow going to give their platform, I don't even know what, more money, more legitimacy. I don't even know why they're trying to do it. But the issue is that the YouTube audience is incredibly diverse already, and it's growing all the time. So there's no need to advertise and try to have this follow through with these big publishers and these mainstream entities, because ultimately, based on all the numbers I've seen, especially CNN's numbers, which just came out, cable's dying hard. It's absolutely dying hard.
Same here. So we don't even watch the TV here anymore.
Right. Like at some point, I'm going to be moving into my own residence, and I'm not going to have a landline. I'm not going to have cable, except for maybe internet if Fios is unavailable. But there's no reason at this point to watch television, and it's only older people that still enjoy it in any way. And for YouTube to fundamentally not understand the direction of entertainment and where it's going, it just speaks to the total incompetence.
I mean, just think about it over here. We have to have a license, the TV license. I mean, there's no imperative to own a TV here. I mean, the BBC are actually trying to put the YouTube streaming into the license, but there's no way they're going to be able to.
It's not going to happen. I can't imagine.
We'll just ignore it. I'm going to ignore that. I mean, I need a TV for my consoles because I want to watch my DVDs and stuff. I mean, I could just use my PC, but TVs are better for that kind of stuff. Other than that, I'm not going to be watching anything like TV on it. I mean, who knows? I might use the aerial, but other than that, that'll be for special occasions like New Year's Eve or something. Like, there's no need.
The future of entertainment and news and everything else, really, it all points in the direction of online and possibly online only. Even though there are repercussions of like different outlets, like Newsweek is currently having problems, but there's a bunch of different mainstream outlets that are all in trouble, and include CNN. Like I said, the numbers came out, and after the election ended, it dropped terribly. And it's in part because of their own issues and their own ridiculousness, but it's also because it's like more and more people are just watching shit online, and there's a huge generational gap, and that has gotten even worse with Gen Z. It's gotten even worse with them.
Yeah. Just to bring it back, like just a little bit before we get back into this, but you said that Facebook's dying, but if you think about it, if they move into video content creating, and Twitch is already beginning to move into a YouTube kind of like state alongside the live streaming, do you think they could catch up on YouTube? Perhaps that might reinvigorate Facebook and maybe even Twitch?
Facebook, I don't really know, because they do have a video section where they do get millions of views. Like there are videos that go very viral on Facebook and get a lot of views. The only issue is that monetization on Facebook is nowhere near the incentives to operate in Facebook are nowhere near as well as to operate on Twitch or on YouTube. There's a lot more means by which to make a lot of money than there is on Facebook, as far as I understand the model that they have. But at the same time, with Facebook, is that their audience is slowly dwindling, and it's incredibly old. And two, it's that they oh God, what is it? Oh, you can't. Their advertisements don't work. That's one of the big things that they've been trying to run away from, is that their ad model is terrible. Like the actual rate that they have for clicks or even views, they jerry-rigged it for years and years,
Really?
And ever since it got it got exposed that it was rigged in that way, and ever since their ad dollars are drying up. Because why would you advertise if no one's going to even watch your ads or view your ads on Facebook? So Facebook, it's no wonder they're trying to cut into video. They're trying to take away some section of YouTube's audience and part of the market. It's because Facebook, I think, honestly, is in a really poor state of affairs in terms of being able to monetize what they do outside of data collection. That appears to be the only thing they're still able to sell and monetize is data collection.
So do you reckon Facebook could compete, or are they just going to fail?
It ultimately depends on YouTube and them. I mean, I can't speak for how many competent people are actually operating at Facebook. I mean, we can all speak to how terrible YouTube is in terms of their competence overall. But it ultimately, it's up to them to decide if they're going to, if they go real hard to go after that market and YouTube fails to basically address the challenge, which I would argue if they did make a real challenge, YouTube would fall on its face, because that's been every action they've ever, you know. The fact is that once upon a time, Twitch, in my opinion, wasn't really a competitor to YouTube overall. But it's like YouTube has faltered so badly that now Twitch, in many ways, especially with gaming, you have YouTube running after that audience as fast as they possibly can, because Twitch dominates with that.
The problem with Twitch is, even if it does become some kind of viable alternative, it's just going to be the same. In fact, I think they're more censorious than YouTube.
They're more censorious than YouTube.
Here's the thing: they've even got even more double standards than YouTube.
Yes.
And at least but the thing is, at least they're open about it. YouTube are really sly about it. Like, you've seen, like, people who Twitch and also do YouTube, they're constantly complaining about the thoughts and the cam girls and who do the streaming. Yeah. They technically should not be allowed to flaunt what they flaunt. I think that's against.
But they get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't mind them doing that. I think they should be allowed, but if you're not allowed to do it, you're not allowed to do it. There's not much.
Right. It's just a matter of actual proper enforcement of the rules, and I can tell you that that's one of the things that I'm surprised more people have not really taken issue with Twitch. I've seen an infinite amount of criticism, rightly, of YouTube, but I have not really seen a lot of criticism of Twitch, despite the fact that Twitch, by all appearances, is even more censorious than YouTube.
It is. I think it's because
completely out of control.
It's the things you want to hate. I think YouTubers who don't go on Twitch, or at least just watch it but don't use it, they imagine that Twitch would somehow automatically be better, like the grass is always greener kind of thing. No,
Twitch, as far as I can tell, is ridiculous in the way that they approach everything.
We know that, but
but that's the thing.
To believe it isn't, or do believe it's better when it isn't.
I'm more than willing for a new competitor to step up, and this is ultimately what I say to a lot of conservatives now, is that, like, you know, they talk about, oh, the invisible hand of the market's going to solve everything. It's like, all right, well, where's Gab for YouTube? Where's Gab for Twitch? Where's Gab for Facebook? Where's Gab, or some alternative, some conservative alternative for all these different outlets, when there appears to be absolutely none? Even what is it? A BitChute. They just had to rebrand for some reason.
Oh yeah, they did.
So even they're like kind of struggling a little bit, and they're just out of the gate. And you had what's that other alternative that just failed? VidMe. VidMe failed.
Yeah. I knew it was going to fail because it wasn't doing anything fast enough.
No, it didn't do anything fast enough. It didn't innovate enough, and it didn't distinguish itself enough away from the status quo. If it's just a new version of YouTube, except for nothing's changed, then nothing's changed, and there's no reason to see it as any kind of alternative.
I don't know if you heard about this. They did actually edit their trending page because it was getting flooded with conservative, alt-right, and just what you would call skeptic YouTubers, and they're like, we don't need this, we need to become a viable brand, and it's just like, god damn it.
Yeah, well, that's part of this. Is I think that conservatives don't want to admit the fact that a lot of investment is not in their direction. Because they're not the conservatives are not the status quo anymore. That's one of the things they fail to understand about the market, is that once you no longer dominate culture and there's a stigma against you, even in finance, even in investment, you're going to have to deal with that. And that's been one of the things that Gab has ultimately been has been struggling with, but has been generally successful with, is investment. They're not even done yet, as far as I can tell, with Gab, in terms of the investment they need to get off the ground.
At least that's actually growing.
Like, they're doing well, though. Despite the guy that's running the company having kind of kind of having an asshole disposition. He does appear, by all appearances, he appears to be about to get that company off the ground in a real way, and all credit to him in that regard.
And Maker Support, that's doing well.
Oh yes, I have to say that if I was in Maker Support's shoes, I would be doing everything in my position to basically do what Wendy's does to other companies by just roasting Patreon, because everything that Maker Support has,
the burger store,
the burger Twitter account, by roasting other companies. Maker Support should be doing the exact same thing to draw attention to itself, because everything Maker Support has, and the owner of the company can say otherwise, but everything that I've seen from them has been people leaving Patreon.
I mean, I left Patreon for that, probably very prematurely, but I'm pretty much now at the level that I was before. Although you know this because I DM'd you, I had problems with verifying my bank account. I had to use PayPal, which is taking a large sum away from my my donations. But I'm pretty much back to where I was, and I will bring back Patreon as an option at some point in the future. Anyway, but
I don't have a lot of hope for Patreon. I think Jack, the guy that runs it, is probably a nice guy, but he's a fucking cock.
He's a cook, but you can understand at least that he wants to keep his business going. And I think the people he's up against could destroy it. Like, they can.
I guess so. I mean,
I don't agree with him, though, and I do think...
No, I don't either.
If he put his foot down, he'd probably win.
Yeah, he probably would. But I think what would happen is, and this has been my experience from people I've talked to, even when and I said this before, but I've had insiders talk to me. The issue isn't even always outside pressure. It's internal pressure. It's SJWs that already work within the company. And the thing is that if they threaten to quit, which has happened at several outlets, and other developers, I mean, if they threaten to quit, it puts massive pressure on the management to cater to them. So it's not even just like, oh, Anita Sarkeesian and 10 people on Twitter said this. It's like, no, you have Anita Sarkeesians within your own company.
But the thing is, it's the tech industry. Surely they've got a vast amount of demand for labor, right? Or at least there's a pool that they could probably pick from. Surely that they could just replace those members easily. Or is it because is it a lot harder than that?
No, as far as I can tell, it's not that hard to replace a lot of these people in different positions.
So why is he worried? Unless they're going to speak to the media.
Like I said, it's people within the company putting pressure on you. You also hold sympathies to the people that are arguing. They're putting pressure on you. You hold those sympathies. And it's just over time. I think that, like, I got a lot of trouble because I did that video talking about Western gaming, and one of the things that people jumped on my throat for was this guy at Xseed, who was out there trying to apologize for the inevitable censorship that he's going to be doing at Xseed. If you are ground down enough to the point where you are agreeing with people that should be your opponents, if you're agreeing with them, then you will eventually cave. And the same goes for Jack on Patreon. Eventually he will cave.
So let's bring it back to what we were on about before with Generation Z and everybody moving online. Why do you think that is? What is your opinion on that?
I think that it's for a multitude of reasons. I don't think that there's really even a small list that you could say. If you go, for example, for anyone that owns satellite radio like I do, listen to a few hours of satellite radio and then go listen to a few hours of terrestrial radio. It is night and day, at least from my own experience in the United States. Terrestrial radio, terrestrial, television, all the rest, it is terrible. The advertisements are insufferable. They go on for days. The content is incredibly milquetoast. It is all censored, all regulated. It's boring. It's drab. There's nothing new about it. And online, for better or for worse, every piece of content you'll find is either something new, something different, something radical, nothing that you will ever see on television. It's just there's such a distinction between what's online, and that goes for HBO, that goes for Hulu, that goes for Netflix. It's all incredibly different compared to what's on terrestrial television. I haven't watched terrestrial television in like a decade at this point, and that's because the content that's available on television is terrible. It's just cable television is awful.
And I think Generation Z, our generation, the millennials. What even letter are we? What are we? Generation M?
I'm a millennial. I'm a millennial.
Let's see, but Generation Y, that's what we are. Yeah, Generation Y. Yeah.
Mm.
Like, I think we've noticed this increasingly because of the information age. We can see the glaring differences between what's online and what's in terrestrial TV, because that's the establishment showing you what they want you to show. But when you go online, if you go on 4chan, 8chan, or even like the Young Turks or Rebel Media or any other website or YouTube channel like that, they present a different story.
People forget that there was once upon a time where Comedy Central was very edgy. MTV was very edgy. Like, there was a time where cable television could be edgy.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I mean, even maybe them, like Cartoon Network. Even Cartoon Network with anime, introducing anime to people, with Adult Swim at night. I mean, cable television used to be incredibly edgy to some extent, but unfortunately, like, watching, like, when I was a kid, watching Bam and Margera on MTV, watching Johnny Knoxville with Jackass on MTV, or like even the reality shows they had back then. You know, all the stuff that used to be in like Comedy Central, the Chappelle Show. I mean, revolutionary comedy, revolutionary content. The Daily Show or when it first came out on
before it went to
Comedy Central, before it went to shit. But you look at everything. You look at Adult Swim. You look at Cartoon Network. You look at Nickelodeon. You look at everything. It's all it's just mirrored of the Disney Channel. It's boring oatmeal shit, and it all toes one line.
And you know what that is? It's because those people have now made it to the establishment and they're resting on their laurels. They're lazy.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The challenge that once existed in terms of like these people trying to stand up to what was at one point the status quo. They are the fucking status quo, and they have been for years. And you can see just based on the content that's there, it's terrible. It's just in a constant
and it's out of touch.
Decay.
Like, look at all the people on YouTube. Well, PewDiePie kind of had something with the Maker Studios, Disney's YouTube.
Well, that's all gone now.
Program's gone. Yeah, he doesn't need it though, does he? But like he could have had his own TV show by now. Like, you still see people like Penguins. Or, you know, the guy who's called Critical, he still thinks that YouTube can be a platform to TV. Like, well, you might be able to get on TV if you're lucky, because they are looking for people with 1 million subs or more. But they're so out of touch that they're not going to give you a chance. Although they'll give him a chance for a pilot, and they'll never take it.
Well, they tried it with Casey Neistat with CNN. They tried to have him turn into some sort of online platform. That whole fucking thing fell through.
Yeah. It was mostly him, from what I could gather. He just wasn't into it for whatever reason. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it was probably CNN as well. They're not understanding how it works. And then we got a super chat, by the way. Yeah, I did promise to read this. Yeah. You didn't read it that one time. That was a load of bullshit when they were saying you didn't read the super chats. It's like, yeah, you didn't.
Oh, you're talking about the Jim stream. Well, they actually used that to there's this alt-right bullshit that's being spread around.
I got confused at one point, but I think he misread you, The Guardian, I think, and then was.
I don't give a shit what that retard thinks.
But anyway, let's read it before you just get into that.
All right.
How much more data do companies need isn't clear. Exactly.
Well, it's how much they can sell. That's pretty much. I think that at some point the firms that exist that buy consumer information on people to sell people products or advertise to them, I think eventually that's going to saturate because data is only so worthwhile.
So anyway,
you can only process it.
What are we going to say about the alt-right thing then?
I mean, there's not really much to it. It's just that there's this fucking ridiculous lie that's going around that I basically streamed with Jim, except it was like in a private call, or maybe it was live. I forget, like I can't follow it, but I streamed with Jim and Sargon. I took down the video, I cut out 8 minutes of it, and then I re-uploaded it.
Yeah,
and that's why I supposedly didn't read any of the chats, but. I don't know. It's kind of retarded. And the thing is that I keep telling people, like, link me the full unedited version that went out the first time it went up. And the joke, it's a joke, really, because I'm going to flag them if I do find those videos. Because it's a lie, first off. But the thing is that I don't want people taking, like, one of the biggest videos on my channel away from me. and that appears to be one of the things that people did. Because somebody sent me a link to this one guy, and he had the video up. It had 30,000 views on his channel. It was all but 10 minutes of the video, of the full video, full stream. And he was like talking shit about me in the comment section. I was like, you're really gonna fucking steal my content and talk shit about me. So I flagged the video. It went down. He got a strike against the channel. He contacts me in the private messages, and the first thing he says to me is, "Oh, bro, I hope you aren't too ass hurt." And then he goes on to like beg me to take down, like to whatever, like release the strike.
He didn't ask you for permission, did he? And it was just 10 minutes of your content.
No, it was all but 10 minutes.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah, he cut 10 minutes out unedited and just put it on his thing, right?
And re-uploaded.
Wait, was this Kronos by any chance?
No, I know who that is, but that's not him.
Does he ask permission?
He uploaded. Well, he didn't for me if he did, because I think I saw a 10-minute clip or 20-minute clip of my content in his channel, and he never asked permission for that. But I don't want to go after everybody. It's just people that are uploading nearly the full fucking video, because it goes for any other video. Because I had a guy a long time ago asked me if he could archive my videos for me, and I said yes at the time. But everything that I do goes up on BitChute now, or BitChute, or whatever the fuck they're called now, Speak Out, whatever. Everything I do goes up there now, and that's going to be my archive. So at this point, I don't want any of my content so-called fucking archived, which is just re-uploading it for the fucking views, and I don't even know, like, just to basically not. It's basically it's like malicious archiving, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't really like channels like that. Even the ones
I don't either.
Even the ones that do it for a good reason. I'm kind of like, well, some of them become really big, and it's off other people's content, not their own. You know, even if they do it even if they're just archiving, or they're doing it for people to respond to, I get that. I like that, but you're getting big off other people's work.
The thing is, a good reason why I don't like it is that, for whatever reason, the people that run those channels, for whatever reason, they do make money off of it. Because there even are channels that I follow that are archive channels, and I'm growing to increasingly not like them. Because one of the guys that I follow that does this, his name is the Liberty Hound. He's like a conservative uploader. He uploads Fox News segments, Ben Shapiro segments, like different segments that are from conservative pundits, and he watermarks all the videos as if it's his fucking content.
Jesus Christ.
When it's like, why are you watermark? Like, this would be the easiest fucking lawsuit in the world. You're uploading other people's content, and you're putting your own watermark on it.
Well, I do like the ones that I like in particular, because it's not all of them, but the ones who are archiving a person's work for historical reasons, or in case they get flagged, and they don't make money off of it, like the Mr. Metaca's archive, the Mr. Metaca archives guy. He doesn't make money off it. Well, when he does make money off it, I think he's had enabled, he gives it to Jim. Like, he PayPals him the money, and he's proving that, and he's subbed to me as well. That was a surprise. Yeah, I like what he does, because, you know, Jim has a habit of deleting things and whole channels. Yeah, that's so you can see why people like that would
right. It would make a little bit of sense, because when he deleted his own channel, lost a lot of content.
Yeah, and I really like the ones who archive deleted videos that one person doesn't want that video to be there for whatever reason. So, like, say Angry Joe makes another ridiculous statement about his fans, and he deletes that video. Somebody will archive that for the Barbara Streisand effect. That's something I like, although I prefer it if they didn't make money off of that, because it's still, you know, not their content, and it's kind of not fair use when you're making money off of it, kind of.
Yeah, I just the issue is that there are definitely people out there that are archiving stuff that are doing it for the right reasons, but I really take issue with it, because I think increasingly people are using so-called archiving as a means to just literally lift other people's entire content.
A lot of them do it for ideological reasons as well. Like, Kronos is very biased in how he does it. Rather than just leave it there for people to decide for themselves. He can't have that. I mean, to be honest, if I was doing that kind of thing, I'd probably fall for that temptation too. It's really, really easy to kind of make your side better by taking stuff, because it is out of context. Even if it is the context of that part of the conversation, out of the larger context, you're still taking it out and trying to frame it in a way that make suicide look bad, even if they don't actually look that bad.
My whole thing, and apparently a YouTuber that I used to be subscribed to, who's not much bigger than me, oh god, Hard Bastard.
Yeah.
He apparently threw a fucking fit because I flagged down that one guy's video.
Yeah, I did see that.
And he thought that I was gonna flag his content.
No.
And I responded to him. He was like panicking on Twitter, and so somebody sent his panicking tweet to me. And so I replied and I said, listen, like, if you offer commentary, like, I'm not going to flag the content. Like, the only thing I'm concerned about is somebody literally downloading my video and re-uploading it. That's my concern. And that isn't what he did as far as I was aware. And he never fucking responded.
Maybe he was just pleased. Maybe he didn't need to say anything. He was like, phew, he's not going to flag me.
I don't know about
that bastard. I'm friends with him, and I can see it from his perspective. He was probably told a few things that weren't true.
Yeah, that seemed to be what was going on at the time. People were just making up bullshit and just spreading it around, saying like, "Oh man, I'm going crazy flagging videos or whatever."
Because even I got confused by your statement to the Guardian. You know, it happens. It's not. We're only human.
Whatever.
Yeah. So anyway,
morning team.
Western gaming is doomed, right? That's what you say?
Yeah, that's pretty much my position on it.
There's one event, I mean, there's probably a few others, but there's one event in particular that makes me kind of hopeful, and that is Battlefront 2. Like, new Battlefront 2, not the old one. They lost sales because of that controversy. Like,
they did lose millions of sales, but the thing is that, like, I have not seen any sign of anyone, like, I don't even think that economically you can argue anything anymore. I do think that half of these companies are going to reach the position of Marvel Comics where they become post-sales. They don't even care anymore that they are losing sales. And I think that EA is one of those companies that is right around the corner from being there. They seem to be the absolute fucking worst when it comes to everything. Like business-wise, the practices-wise, advertising-wise, the SJW influence, just everything. They're abysmal. And yet I don't really think that they're ever going to somehow turn around. And yet the thing is that people say, oh, well, they'll collapse. The whole fucking industry is a day away from collapsing. No, it isn't. Millions of fucking people still buy their games, and you're never going to fucking change their mind.
Supply is meeting demand. That's the problem.
Yep.
Even though their supplies are dwindling, they're not making as much video games as often as they used to.
No, they're not. There's a lot of companies.
There's got to be something that's going to happen where that can't be a sustainable model.
I think that the Western industry is just entering into this really, really bad state. And I can't really describe, because I'm not sitting in the investor meetings understanding where they're coming from with what they're doing, but I just I'm very, very pessimistic towards the Western gaming market, and there just seems to be a lot of ridiculous optimism and a total dismissal to the fact that regardless of what EA does, they could put out a game that is totally dysfunctional, doesn't work, has all kinds of terrible things in it, millions of people are still going to fucking buy it. Battlefront 2 was just a freak abnormality. They honestly, it's just been years of bad behavior from them, and still they're going to sell millions of copies of FIFA, millions of copies of whatever the fuck they're putting out. So I just don't think that the crash that everyone thinks is going to happen tomorrow, the impending failure of these companies, and the other thing is, where are the game companies that are coming out of the woodwork to take the place of Activision, of fucking EA, of these different companies? Like, it's a handful of exceptions. It's you know, the game that Sargon's currently playing, Kingdom Come Deliverance.
That's their first game.
It's their first fucking game. And it's like, and here's the thing, I am more than willing to concede that congratulations to, was it David Veras?
Something like that, yeah. I think so.
Yeah, congratulations to him. I hope it's a fucking massive success. I hope it makes him millions of dollars. I hope he continues to make phenomenal games. I've heard a lot of people praise it. I've picked it up myself, played a little bit of it, just because I caved and said, you know what, I'm going to buy this politically, just because this guy said, fuck anti-Gamergate, and it's like, hell yeah. Cool, I'll buy your game then.
I'll buy it, but not right now.
It's not revolutionary to begin with. It's not revolutionary. No. But I do like it. I think it is a very serious, solid quality to it. people should be considering whether they want to pick it up or not, and maybe wait a little while till the price drops a little bit. But the fact is that it's better than half the fucking shit coming out from any major AAA company at this point. There's nothing more than a cloned carbon copy sequel. And I guarantee you that there's a chance that I'm going to buy the next Far Cry game, depending on how I'm going to wait till after it releases. But I might buy the next Far Cry game. But if I get any sense that this is just another fucking carbon copy SJW-filled shit game, I'm not buying it. Fuck it. And it's just a matter of, once you start dwindling down to a select few series, games, whatever that is left, like, you have to ask yourself if people talk about the indie market in gaming, is it just because these games are so good, or is it because what the AAA is putting out is such trash that there's literally no alternative but to look to the indie scene, but to look to the Eastern market, like.
And the indie scene is where these SJWs came from. That's where they...
Yeah, well, that's why I don't trust it. That's why when people him and haw to me about how I don't see the salvation of Western gaming in the indie scene, it's like, yeah, where do you fucking think these people dominate?
Well,
it's in the indie scene.
I do think there's different indie scenes. There's the SJW San Francisco scene, and then there's the people who are on their own making video games. Like, I've got 2 video games from a Drunken Peasants fan, and that was advertised on their like podcast 2 years ago, and he's not like that, and he does like Final Fantasy type games. And oh, what was that?
Yes, ringing. Hold on a sec.
Hello, everybody. It's just me for now. I think it's his phone or something.
Sorry about that. I keep getting this happened to me earlier when I was in that stream with V. I don't know if you saw that, but I got contacted in the middle of it. I had to step away.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. So, what do you think about arguments towards the alt-right anyway? Like, do you think people who are anti-alt-right, regardless of what you call them, skeptics or liberalists or liberals or centrists, like, I don't think everything's there yet. Kind of like how pre-2013, 2014, there wasn't really an argument against the social justice warriors that could really, do some proper damage. So I'm wondering, what do you think about that? Do you think nobody's really...
I don't think that there's really much worth to it. I've gone back and forth with a slew of different people about this, and it, by all appearances, it's just not worth the effort. That you're not dealing with people that are intellectually honest, which is the same when it comes to the SJWs. But there's like you're dealing with people that are fanatical. That the laziness and the incompetence that you'll see from the SJWs in terms of their tactics, the alt-right is far more effective in just pestering people, going after people, looking them up, trying to fuck with them as hard as possible. I had a video that was flagged down on my channel, that stream that I did with Sargon not that long ago, like a week or so ago.
I've had 2 videos blocked, by the way, in many different countries just now.
Oh, that I think might be something different in terms of the material that's in the videos. But I'm saying that the videos that's been flagged down. That's what I'm saying specifically. It just happened to Jeff Holiday twice. I DM'd him and said,
"What, recently?
You're on a shit." Yeah, just the other day he got 2 videos flagged down. It's because he's on the shit list.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of his own fault in that way because of what he was involved in.
Well, I gotta say that
I know
really,
it sounds like victim blaming, but it's like no. Vengeance.
The issue is that with Kraut, I really do think that with the whole Kraut and T thing, he did something wrong, but the people that he supposedly harmed are infinitely worse than him.
Oh yeah, I do agree with that.
I think that they are any time that they claim to be victims of anything, they're not. They are just trying to use it as a tactic to gain sympathy for their own ends. I really don't think that involving yourself with the alt-right in any way is worth anyone's time or energy anymore.
I don't think it's worth my time or energy because at the moment they're not a real threat to me or my country or even yours.
I don't even think they're ever going to be in the position to really do anything. I think that if anyone's paid attention to the streams that have gone on between like even major figures in their movement supposedly, it goes absolutely nowhere, and they don't really have any prescriptions on how to obtain power. I mean, they have this idea that they're somehow going. Well, I don't even know if they actually even want power, if they even want to be in office anyway. I mean, these people fundamentally reject, and will tell you as much, democracy. They think that representative democracy is a joke.
It's for fags, isn't it?
And
it's
and they have no aspirations to be elected to anything. So it's just a matter of like, well, if you're in that, what it does is that it enters into position of, and I had somebody, I talked to somebody earlier about this, and I think it might have been Uzulu, who took issue with this sentiment that I had, and it's like, to any revolutionary out there, go punch a cop. You know, just do that, because it's going to end in the same way. It's just solving your problem for you. And that's really it. It's like, there's no real, I can't negotiate with somebody who doesn't even see the value of running for office or achieving any kind of office, because they reject democracy, and they're so toxic that any affiliation with them is just ultimately harming you. Because these people don't even have arguments. They just use slur words in replace of any kind of argument, and it goes absolutely nowhere. So I think that even talking about them as I am now, it's just it's ultimately a waste of my fucking time.
So here's something. The current fight with the SJWs, I don't think it's even over. Like, okay, I'll concede that we've won YouTube, but I don't think I don't think that was ever going to be too difficult. I mean, it wasn't easy, but
well, we won YouTube in terms of the culture. We didn't win it in terms of the institution.
No, and that's the problem. It's the institutions, and it goes beyond YouTube. It goes into government. It goes into the academia. Anything you can think of, they're there. And if they don't run it, they will be running it or attempting to run it very soon.
Yeah,
and that's going to take 10 years, maybe 15 years to root out. It's a cancer.
Yeah, I don't think and I've said this before, but I don't think there's any fixing it up until you handle academia. I think that is the major source of most of the problem. And there seems to be very, very little movement on actually having that changed.
I think it's academia and the political parties that we need to reform. But the thing is...
Well, the political parties, I think, are downstream to academia. I think that if you remove the source of all these fucking lunatic Marxists just pumping out insane propaganda that's masquerading as research, once that goes away, like even shit like the wage gap, which the Democrats will rely on for a pitch, that goes away. So I think that a lot of the problems with the political parties, I think that goes away once these people are out of academia. If they don't have the academic backing of institutions to say, oh, there's white supremacy, there's white privilege, there's the wage gap, there's all this different bullshit. If that isn't backed by actual universities, then who are they even going to cite for why they believe stupid ideological nonsense? There will be nobody. It'll be random feminist authors that sell 1,000 books.
Yeah, or they'll be going into more extreme direction in an effort to defend this orthodoxy that they have and become Antifa, because that's what we noticed over 2017 and 2016.
They definitely radicalized.
They radicalized and became not violent to the point of killing people. Well, actually, I think they did kill one person, didn't they? Not at Charlottesville. That was some alt-right guy. But I do think Antifa has killed one person.
I'd have to look it up again.
I feel like there was one. Somebody got killed. But
I know that there was an attempt.
There was an attempt on the Republican
the bike lock guy.
Yeah,
the bike lock guy was an attempt.
Well, that whole bloody riot was an attempt to do some kind of harm to somebody. But then there was an American politician who got shot, didn't he, by a Democrat?
Well, that was different. That was a lunatic. I guess Bernie Sanders supporter would be accurate, but he was like a lunatic partisan. That appeared to be his thing, is that he wasn't specifically just, oh, I'm a Bernie bro, kill all Republicans. It was, I'm a crazy partisan Democrat, and I'm going to shoot this. I'm going to basically try to shoot, as many Republicans as I can. And thankfully, he was a terrible enough shot that he only shot Steve Scalise.
So here's a hypothetical. Once we deal with academia, what do we replace it with? And when we do replace it with that, how do we stop that from going extremist?
I don't know if there's anything that comes to mind that I can say that is a replacement specifically. The only thing that I can offer is basically you take African American studies and you take women's studies and you basically make it impossible for public universities to have those programs. If they want to have those programs, if any university wants to have those programs, they have to be privately funded. Because you can make the law set up so that federally you cannot receive any benefits or any funding from the federal government if those programs exist. You can set that up in the law. It can come through the states, but then you just move it to the states. Then it becomes a state effort.
I would definitely do that. And also, now, I'm only using this word because I can't think of anything else, and I don't mean Randian objectivism, but there should be like an objectivism where we look at things objectively as a philosophy rather than as like a libertarian economic thing.
Sure,
so, like,
I mean,
here's the facts.
It's just peer review. I mean, that already exists.
But that's the thing. That's what we replace feminism with. Like, okay, so this faculty here is like history. There's facts there. You're debating these facts. You're coming up with new facts. Archaeology as well works with you. That's fine. Then geography, geology, science, that kind of stuff. You know, that's what we should replace it with. I don't think we should replace it with anything like.
Sure. I mean, the thing is I imagine it going to that naturally once these people are removed from the universities, because
that's the like the best case scenario.
Right. I really do think that if you remove those, if you're like, the other thing would be like the diversity offices, like that too has an effect, and it basically provides a way to grow within an institution. That's obviously an issue, but I would definitely focus primarily, like the biggest thing I would, if I were in Congress and I was going to pass a bill, the biggest thing would be revoking any federal funding to women's studies, race studies, and basically that would be the first fucking bill you would pass. Then from there you would move to social sciences generally and diversity chairs and the rest of that. I think that once you get rid of women's studies and the race studies, anthropology, history, social sciences in general, there will definitely be an effect of a draining of those people from within the institutions. You may be right that it may not be the only like the removal of those studies may not be the only thing that's required, but I do think that it will have a very real impact, especially if you make it clear to universities, and they could do this in terms of the law, is if this exists in anthropology, if it exists in history, if it exists in all these different areas, we are going to defund that as well. So you better step up and make sure these people are out of there.
Thankfully, in my uni, it didn't seem to exist when I was doing history there. So touch wood, it's still the same. But here's the thing, though. Like, if I can remember what it was, let me think. It was oh no, I've forgotten what it was. What was it? I've never forgotten a question yet. Oh my god, it was I forgot.
Did it deal with funding?
Not funding. It was ideological. I've totally blanked on it.
Did it have to do with universities?
Yeah, kind of. More like the it's gone. It's gone.
Was it culture at large?
Kind of. Never mind. I'll think of something.
Sure.
So one of the. Oh wait, I nearly had it then. I was going to ask you a completely different subject. I think it was.
Oh, okay.
So that's it. I remember now. So the problem with that is we've currently got a right wing that doesn't want to do anything, or will happily go along with the social justice things. Like in my country, we've got technically, economically, the most right wing Tory party that's ever existed. Like they've gone farther than Thatcher in many ways. But socially, there isn't more liberal than she was.
Yeah, I mean, Theresa May isn't even in favor of Brexit. I mean, she's still to this point.
She's from the One Nation. She wasn't One Nation like the academic agent says it was, because there was kind of like two wings. There was the paternal kind of similar to the Labour Party at the time wing that she overtook, but I think she still had that One Nation thing, which was like, you know, equality. Socially, I think. Yeah. At least the Tory version of it. And then there was
the problem is that, like, ultimately I can't speak to the Conservatives in your country, but it appears to, because I think it's for different reasons. I think that in the UK, as far as I can tell, it was because the conservatives accepted the premise of the progressives. They accepted their premise and have, and the same, that's definitely true for Canada. Canada had a conservative government that just conceded all the points of the progressives, and now there's just this insane leftist in charge. And there's nowhere the conservatives can go in Canada because they accepted their premise of, well, equality is a natural good. When, and it doesn't mean like equality in terms of the law. They accept the premise that equality in terms of like the outcome is a good thing, that we need to focus on having more fucking quote unquote diversity. Like conservatives accepted that premise and they don't resist anything, and now they're just useless. They don't do anything.
And my thing is, I don't even see Mogg doing anything. Like, everybody's saying that he's going to be the next Tory leader. It could be Boris Johnson. It could be any one of them. And even then, who's to say he won't cook himself? Loads of people who've been considered these amazing prospects for prime minister or president, they end up cooking themselves.
I think that
even Trump to an extent did that.
Yeah, I do think as well. Trump, people I think overestimate Trump, and maybe they're doing that with Rees-Mogg. He seems to be pretty properly conservative from my standpoint.
Oh yeah, he says some ridiculous things like, "It's great we have food banks."
Yeah, I can't really speak to the economic situation.
We have middle class people using food banks in this country, and that's a good thing apparently.
Yeah, I guess like I said, but it ultimately the good thing would be that even if Rees-Mogg would have get into power there, I would say that there would be so much check to what he may want to do as a very economically strong conservative. Like, I don't really think he'd be able to move much in terms of that kind of thing. One would hope, because there would be a check against it.
Yeah, but party rebellions and things like that.
Sure, but but socially, I would say somebody like him is exactly what's needed, because when you have someone like Theresa May just accepting every premise that, like, oh, women are paid less and all these different things, when you have conservatives just accepting that premise, I mean, where do you go from there? You know, it's like that or the far right. Like, at some point, somebody has to step up and actually stand for conservative principles. In part, it's economic, but it also has to be socially.
I remember
you have to stand up for a free system.
Before Thatcher, it was called that era of politics was called consensus politics, and it's the same in Scandinavian countries and maybe other continental countries, where the two biggest parties, well, all the parties apart from the extremes, all settle on a consensus that they concede points to each other. Like, this is how we're going to run the country. You may have a more right-wing version of that. You may have a more left-wing or a more centrist version, but this is the plan. So it was called like the post-war dream. And now I remember like when I was in college, which isn't university, it's sixth form. It's like a high school senior. I remember asking my teacher, like, are we entering a new consensus with this new government? This, at the time, was a coalition government. Well, this is a coalition government now, but not as strong. And they said, well, not really, but I think I was right, but I don't think it was the way I intended it to. I imagined it to be. It's now a social justice and monetarism consensus, it seems to be. And I'm like, what the this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This is like two things that shouldn't be together as one, and it's kind of messing with my brain.
Right.
I don't know if you understand what I mean by that, but that seems to be where Canada and the UK are heading. Because I don't think Trudeau. I mean, economically, what is he? Neoliberal or is he socialist?
Probably, yeah. I don't think he's a socialist.
No, I mean I think
he'll just say socialist talking points.
Corbyn is though.
Oh yeah, Corbyn I don't think is anything but a socialist. He appears to be, because the thing is, you don't hear Trudeau or anyone else talking about seizing property. You hear that from Corbyn. It's like, holy fucking shit, bro. That's crazy. That's some fucking third world shit.
Homeless people. We're going to give them homes. Like, where from? Like, oh, these homes that nobody lives in that are for sale. Really now?
Yeah.
Confiscating that private property from landlords. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking radical.
Did you hear that he actually had contact with Czech communist agents?
That's not exactly surprising. No. I mean, dude, he goes to rallies where like 100 people are waving Soviet flags. Like, I think we know where he stands.
The problem with that is, like, yeah, he probably didn't know. 50% chance that he didn't know it was an agent, because we do know that there were Czech agents masquerading as diplomats, and there was Russian agents doing the same thing, and Polish agents, because, you know, it's the Eastern Bloc. Of course they were going to do that, and we were doing the same thing to them. It's the Cold War for you. However, he should kind of been aware of that. So he was either very naive or he knew he was talking to a spy and was giving them all this information about anti-communist organizations and even what MI6 was doing. And well, at least as much as he knew as a backbencher.
Well, the thing is that like ultimately, even if he wasn't doing, his affiliation with like terrorists and stuff like that is not that.
It doesn't paint a good picture. Or what he thinks about Argentina and the Falklands. Like at one point, I think he thought we should just given it to them, or now have a joint rule. It's like, no, the people don't want that. Like they want to be British. I think even the Argentines who live there would rather keep the status quo. Because he thinks...
I mean, in terms of like returning things to people, I think honestly, I don't know the full politics of it, but giving Hong Kong back to China or allowing them so-called independence, like that appears to be kind of a mistake from my perspective, because the Chinese aren't exactly anything but hostile.
And the thing is, like, he wants to remove their sovereignty to some extent. And then he's like talking to terrorists like the IRA, and I think he thinks he's trying to somehow, change the world or change the situation in Northern Ireland when he was doing that. But it's like he doesn't have a clue what he's doing. He doesn't, and he's not the kind of person that I would want in a war. And he also said,
definitely not.
He said this. He said that Britain has not had a just war since 1945. So the Falkland Islands to him was not just, even though we were our territory was attacked. But it's still our people. They're still British. They have all the rights that we do. And that's not just.
Not if you're like a ridiculous pacifist.
I mean, not only did we free the people...
The reason he probably said that in terms of the Nazis was because they were right-wing.
Yeah.
That's probably why. They were the Russians. He probably would say, wasn't that just? Right. Because that was the thing. The fucking... once upon a time, when the Russians were against attacking, when they were communists, the communists that were Russians were opposed to attacking Hitler. They were in all the different Western countries. The communist parties in our countries historically were against it. But after the Soviets were attacked, all of the different communist groups flipped and were in favor of attacking.
Stalin told them.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is that like communist parties essentially at that point in time were acting as proxies for the Soviets. So it's like when all the anti-communist sentiment that existed right around like the turn of the century, it was true. Like it was true. Like the communist parties in all the different Western nations were proxies for the fucking Russians.
And we probably had proxies in their right-wing parties. But here's the thing.
Maybe.
It was a just war. Like, it's the only thing I ever agreed with Thatcher on. the Falklands War. It's the only thing. Because not only did we free the Falkland Islanders, we freed the Argentinian people kind of directly. Because after that war, their stupid right-wing military dictatorship fell. So it's kind of ironic that all these new democratically elected governments are still using it for political point scoring and trying to turn countries against us in the UN to get the Falkland Islands, when if it weren't for that war, they wouldn't be free. If we didn't kick their asses.
The same could be said for the United States in multiple ways, that our interactions in the world, even if positive or negative.
Fenrir as well mentioned the Malayan emergency, where we were decolonizing. I think it was Malaysia and Indonesia tried to invade it because they thought they had a claim to it, and we stopped them. I think they were kind of socialist or Islamist. I can't tell what they were at the time. I think that's what it was. Yeah, we stopped.
Probably both.
Yeah, probably both. Yeah. Well, the Sandinistas were Catholic and communist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of a thing where I can't really like somebody brought up Kyle Kalinske, and they offered to contact him in favor. Like they had a direct contact with him. They're like, "Oh, I want to see you debate him." And I said, like, he's never going to fucking debate me. And two, any debate that we would have, especially on foreign policy, I would blow him out of the fucking water, because he operates from this position that and it's what you're talking about, that every country in the world, if the United States or the UK or whatever powers that existed in the world, if they just back down, that the countries that exist in this world wouldn't take full advantage of that and invade other countries. It's like, no, every opportunity that these countries have had to expand, they do.
I mean, look at Spain. like they still tried to claim Gibraltar, even though they gave it away after a war in which we beat them. Well, they were on another side and lost with the French, and we managed to claim, as you know, like America did in some of their wars. That was the not reparations, but prize. What would you call it? You know what I mean?
It's just seized territory.
Yeah, but it was 300 years ago, and the British. Yeah. And they speak a different language, actually, from the Spanish. They don't speak Spanish. They speak Gibraltarian or some kind, which is influenced by Spanish and English.
Yeah.
And it's like they want to be British, and they've been purposefully laying concrete on the seabed to disrupt it's fishing. The Spanish, yeah. So, like, you're right. Other countries are trying to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, the whole idea of, like, we're going to have this centralized world where people are going to get along, that's fucking bullshit. It's never going to be true. There's always, even if we, like, reach this utopian point where we're spacefaring and we have a federation and all this bullshit, there's still going to be territorial disputes.
Well, yeah, even in Star Trek, the Earth is not united.
Yeah. I don't think there's ever going to be a point in time where the world is ever going to be not basically operating from power politics in terms of territory and resources and the rest.
In Star Trek, it's weird. They don't fight each other, but they're not united as one planet. But it doesn't really matter. It's de facto unification, or de jure. It's de facto. But it's like they don't care. I guess they've got other things.
I do think that the world is in the position where if we go, and it's currently not on that track, unfortunately, but there is a possibility that the world could operate on a track where, let's say, Russia and the United States somehow resolve their fucking differences, although it appears to be really hard at this point to do that. Apparently, relations have soured really fucking badly between the United States and Russia.
I thought it would get better with Trump.
So did I, but it hasn't, and it's disappointing. But let's pretend for a second that those relations in the next 50 years resolve. We operate on the same track at some point. And the best thing, in my opinion, that could happen is that Russia, through trade and culture and the rest, are influenced enough that they eventually are willing to, and the other nations that won't want them to join eventually concede it and are willing to do it because they're not acting as aggressively anymore. And it's probably going to require Putin to die for that to happen. And I don't mean him being assassinated. I just mean him growing old and dying and not being in power anymore. You have a softer leader. You have not as an aggressive of a leader. The West stops acting ridiculously. And eventually they get brought into NATO. If that happens, then it resolves that issue. I think that there will no longer really be any kind of real territorial dispute once they're in NATO. I think that goes away. And if that happens, that resolves Eastern and Western Europe and that entire section of the fucking world. From there, all you would have to deal with is the distinct differences that could be easily resolved in a few decades in South America, like the growing pains of development in Brazil and some of the other nations, the current issue with Venezuela, which can be righted if they stop being fucking communists. The issues that exist in Asia will require the failure of China. So, and that isn't out of the realm of possibilities. If that happens, you could see something that could enter the realm of being essentially a utopian world.
I think the problem with Russia is that they don't trust the West.
Oh, absolutely. There's an intense anti-Western sentiment. Yeah, it does make sense.
Because we have, in many ways, in the West, well, at least our governments, not us as a people, but
they're fucking with us and we're fucking with them.
Yeah, and I think the West has kind of fought with them a little bit more than Russia has, because Yugoslavia is somebody in the chat, the Black Lord of Fenrir, he's a YouTuber and he does some documentaries and he did something on Kosovo. And the West kind of fucked over Serbia with that, because they promised when it was Yugoslavia, yeah, we'd uphold your integrity if you let Croatia and Slovenia, I think it was at the time, go independent. So they let them go independent. Then the country started slipping and shrinking as more countries became independent, and the West went back in them. And Russia was seeing this, and they also saw that the actual oppressed minorities in Azerbaijan and Georgia. And the West aren't helping them, but they're helping Kosovo, which is a hotbed for Islamic terrorism.
Right.
So you can see why I'm only playing devil's advocate here because
I think that it's pretty obvious at this point that the United States has been heavily influenced by Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and those other Qatar. Sunni nations. Yeah. Well, that's actually, as far as I know, it's how you say it. It's Qatar.
Is it? Really? Is that how they say it?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not how they say it, but as far as I know, that's the correct way. I mean, you could say Qatar and still be correct, but I say Qatar because
Spino's girlfriend is another good word to use.
Yeah.
Well, ex-girlfriend.
Well, the real issue is that I think that the real sinkhole in this world is the fact that the United States and the West generally has ties that are too close to Sunni Islamic nations. We prop up China, and we are antagonistic, and they are in return antagonistic towards us in Russia. If we are able to resolve those issues, you will basically see the world fall into place. And it's I don't really have a solution to that because there's so much pressure from so many different sources to retain that status quo that it is incredibly difficult to change it. But the problem is that the people that ultimately claim to be able to change it, that includes Trump, are only willing to change it within degrees. And the desire that I had from Trump to see some real differences in terms of our relationship with Saudi Arabia never materialized and never will. He is a cuckold to Saudi Arabia. Anyone that says otherwise is not paying attention or is just a fucking idiot.
He's a libertarian on Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, he's a libertarian on Saudi Arabia.
That needs to be a meme.
The real hard stance that he said he was going to take against China in trade, that has not materialized. The unions and the other basically inside groups that say what is going on with trade have said that it's pretty much stalled and that the things they wanted to see changed are not really changing, and that the changes that have been made, the tariffs that have been raised, are nothing but like basically bullshit for the sake of getting more money from special interests, and it's not a real change. So Trump in some ways has been good, but in many ways has been just kind of like another standard stock Republican. And I think that there's a lot of Republicans. Unfortunately, there's a lot of conservatives in the United States that I think I said this in a script that I haven't. I have to still work on, but I said in a script that they're a starving dog stuck in a cage that will take anything offered, and the cage is of their own ideological making.
Yeah, pretty much. But the thing is, I know you might not like this or disagree with this, but judging from history, I really don't think America can sustain the hegemony. It's just it's something that's never, it's something that's never been done. And as much as I would like that to remain the case to some extent, as long as they don't involve my country in pointless wars, I'm okay with you doing that.
I would say that on your own. If we don't really change things, if things progressively get worse, I think that buckle up for that.
You better buckle
up for Iraq 2.0.
Well, it's inevitable. All empires fall, even if they remain prosperous.
That's the thing, is that you either have to transcend history as it is, which I infinitely think the U.S. is capable of.
Oh yeah,
but we're not on that track currently. Like China's, we're not on that track.
Got as equal amount of chances sustaining what they've got as well. That's the problem with the modern world.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that as well. That they've become very powerful, but the issue is that they're they're easy to fall apart. I would say. I think that I definitely there's obvious arguments against it, but I would say that I would, if I was in a position that Trump would be, I would be standing there saying to them, like, we can make, and it's true, we can make or break your fucking country. You better stop what you're doing in the East Asia, in the Pacific. You should stop what you're fucking doing. Because if you keep doing it, because they are being expansionist there, absolutely, and aggressive militarily against our allies, I would say we're going to start fucking issuing tariffs. We're going to start issuing, and that's the thing, is that people, especially that are capitalists in the United States, they are desperately afraid of a trade war with China. And it's because they lose an insane amount of money if that happens. Because what a lot of companies did is they went hard into investment in China. They invested trillions of dollars in China to build up factories infrastructure, all that shit to make money there and import it back to the West. And if we got into a trade war with them, they would be the hardest hit, not even the Chinese. It would be the investors from the West. But the issue is that the investors in the West are what is building up China to be a major cultural, military, and economic fucking power. And that's not helping the world. It's really not.
It's not.
China should be basically, I don't even want to say Russia. It should be like maybe more akin to India. Like, it's economically up and coming, but it's a shithole, and no one wants to live there.
India's kind of a shithole, to be fair.
It is a shithole, but that's what I mean. But the thing is, do I fear India taking over the United States or attacking Japan?
Well, no,
or doing
they're influenced by Britain, so it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I don't see India as anything less than like an ally by proxy. You know, they don't do anything that I've never heard. I've never seen an article saying that India comes out and saber rattles against the United States. I've never seen any article.
They don't
like
saber
that.
rattle, but they have taken diplomatic sides with other countries against you, kind of. I think they're on the opposite side of some of the Yugoslavian problems, I think, from that video. Also, Dice Ire, I can't pronounce your name, sorry mate, said all these problems could be solved easily by an antibiotic resistant Great Plague.
No, I don't think so. I don't really think that. I think that ultimately
I think he was joking there.
Yeah, I know, but like the whole post-apocalyptic meme, I honestly think that the future of the world is a lot more boring than
that. He's not saying there's going to be a post-apocalypse. I think he literally means we're all going to die. So it'll just be the animals left, essentially. But here's my thing, I disagree with the doom and gloom thing. I mean, you see it with lesser extent with the SJWs, but more so on the alt-right. They're constantly saying that Europe is done, Europe is finished, Europe is dead, and it's like, no. Those problems can be fixed if you kick out the people causing the problems. Yeah,
I really do think that...
like, you kick out the governments, you kick out the criminals...
Sure.
Or you
even in the UK, the problem with the UK, and I especially subscribe to Douglas Murray's philosophy on it, is that the will to actually do the change is just not fucking there.
We've never been,
and that's the real problem. That's the real problem with the UK, as far as I can tell, is that the will to ultimately change is not there.
Also on the British left, there's somebody called Trevor Phillips, you should check out. He did something on that as well. He actually said that we need a different kind of, what's the word? Assimilation. He says that the old way we used to do it, which was gradual assimilation, doesn't work anymore because things are changing at a rapid pace. People are entering the country quicker. And in greater numbers.
I would say that's your number one fucking problem is the spigot is basically exploded off the wall and it's now just a fucking geyser. And my thing is with the UK, especially it's like, yeah, we're having a housing crisis. It's like, okay, then stop importing immigrants. What the fuck? We have a housing crisis in all these different cities. Okay, stop importing people. But the thing is, regardless of whether it's the UK or the United States, it is a conservative position that our economy is dependent on cheap labor. That is the reason why the UK is importing immigrants and why the United States is endlessly importing immigrants and why Trump may in the end cuck on immigration, because there is this consensus on the right. People can talk about the left all day long. It's the right that's demanding this happen, that immigrants are necessary to sustain our economies. That is what the argument is. Yes. And Japan, in my opinion, is nothing but an exception that, in my opinion, should be very closely examined. But the problem is, like I said,
the people are hypocrites, like you pointed out in that video.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm still like, I've rewritten the script talking about conservatives and my problem with them, and I haven't started it just yet, but what I might do is basically say, here are the things that I think conservatives are right about, and do that video separate, and then, or the arguments where they have a very solid point that I can't think of an argument against, versus where conservatives are completely fucking wrong and are absolutely ridiculous. And I think that those two videos could definitely showcase, from my perspective, the real issue that exists with conservatives, because ultimately, with the left, I think the issue has been closely examined enough to where we know where the problem is, we know what the problem is, we know what the solution is, and it's pretty much the opposite of what everyone is doing currently with the left. It's away from identity politics, away from identitarianism, away from socialism, away from Marxism, away from collectivism, all in favor of liberalism, individualism, actual acting on principle, etc., etc. Like, it is going in the direction more philosophically towards libertarianism, but without the shackles and the burden of utopian bullshit. So that is the future of the left.
Here's something I wanted to ask you about libertarianism. Do you not think that they're really obsessed with the market and they think that the market can fix literally everything? And another thing is, I watched someone called Judil Tom, who's going to be a guest on here soon, and he explains the economics of it, and it's interesting. And then they also have, because some of them are conservative, I think he's conservative to some extent. They have, some of them can be quite conservative to the point that they kind of fall on that cone theory thing in regards to things like pornography and what men and women should be doing with their sex lives and shit. Like, porn is bad for you, apparently, and things like that. And I'm wondering, well, how do they deal with that? If you're libertarians, do you let the market decide, which basically means that porn's going to keep going on forever and ever, like it has done?
It would probably be some measure of hypocrisy, I would imagine.
And because some of them, I wonder, like, some of them do seem to suggest that there should be some kind of state solution to some of these things. Well, they would have to require that because the market is like, you want more porn?
I completely would argue that they're not a libertarian then. And I say this is not as any libertarian. Any libertarian that says, well, the state's the solution to X, they're not a fucking libertarian.
I don't think he said that. He didn't say that, but it seems to suggest that the only way to deal with that would be a state solution, because how's the market going to end porn when it's propping it up?
All right, I would only accept that as a total concession on their part. I would never accept it as anything but that, because that is a concession of the failure of your philosophy.
By the way, Tom, I'm not trying to straw man you. That's just what I got from the video from memory. Sorry. But anyway, what are you going to say? Yeah.
Well, in regards to the issue with libertarianism itself, is that it is an anarcho-capitalist ideology. That is what the movement is.
It does depend on the strand. Like, minarchists are not like that.
I'm not even going to concede that. I think that minarchists are anarchists that lie. I think that's what they are. The libertarian movement, and I said this with the stream with V for like a second, that part of what I want to mention in one of my videos is that the libertarians coming out of the 2016 election did historically better than they've ever done. But the problem is that the Libertarian Party is completely fallen apart.
Internal divisions amongst them because of ideology.
That's yes, because they were infiltrated by progressives and anarcho-capitalists. And the anarcho-capitalists, in my opinion, are on the precipice of winning. So once that occurs, they become in the same section as the alt-right, where they are totally politically worthless.
Yeah, I just don't believe the market can fix everything. I mean, I'm not, like, the academic agent's one of those. He's not a libertarian, but he's kind of. He's a conservative. I don't even know what to call him. He's just right wing liberal, I guess. That's what he calls himself. I think he's one of those who's like, the market will fix everything. And I remember I was watching his most recent video, or a video from a while back, and he was saying that, well, in the Victorian era, like, yeah, conditions were bad, but the workers could just leave to a better factory. But it's like, one, that doesn't reality doesn't work like that. Like, firstly, they'll leave that factory.
My question for him would be, why do states have to introduce right to work laws to decimate unions? Why would that be necessary if the free market would just solve it?
He doesn't like unions, by the way.
Oh, that's no fucking shock. That's most right wingers. But the thing I can't stand about the market, like the anarcho-capitalist types, that the market solves everything. It's like, then why do conservatives go out of their way at every given opportunity to use the government for their own ends? That appears to be like that's one of the real things that I take issue with the right, is that they constantly fucking hammer on about what they believe, but at every single opportunity they betray what they consider to be their own principles. Every given fucking opportunity they do that. And I have a very hard time, like, when people say to me, oh, I should vote for conservatives and blah blah blah, it's like, yeah, until they completely betray everything they ever said and then do the opposite.
Thing is, though,
like,
it's pretty clear.
Why would I ever do that?
The market needs some regulation, not loads of it. It needs some, because if it doesn't get a little bit of regulation, we end up with the Great Depression or the credit crunch. That's what happens if you just let them do what they want. And
well, I think that it would be very specific to, I would say, the finance sector. I would say that that's specifically where there should be a lot of regulation. But the problem is that most conservatives operate from the perspective, regardless of whether they are or not, they operate from the perspective of an investor. That's how they see themselves. I am the investor. Every time I show up to a store and spend $1, I am the investor. And they just kowtow to what investors want. And what investors want is return on their investment, and everything else can get fucked. And that's no way to run a country. That's not how you run a functional society, is by operating from the position of, well, I'm pursuing my own self-interest and fuck everything else.
I've got a question. It's not a super chat, but it's interesting because I haven't seen this, but she asks, Miss Angela asks, what are your opinions on Sargon using his fan base as a deflection tactic for his inability to debate? I've never seen him do that. And what do you mean by that? Like, how does he use his fan base if he doesn't really interact with them outside of YouTube comments and events? Do you mean
I would request an example.
V's doing it of his own accord to defend him, even though he doesn't really need to. Like, here's another thing. There's been a lot of strawmanning of Sargon. Like, he never said he was black. He said he was mixed race. And by the way, there are quarter-caste people who look like that. And half-caste people, like his dad, who look like that. My uncle, he's quarter, and he's basically the same as Sargon, only with darker eyes, and he's bald now. But when he was young, he had dark hair. Like, that's a thing.
Yeah, I would ask for clarification. I'm not sure what they mean by that.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I don't really see he could potentially do that, but I haven't seen him do, like, the only things that I've seen him quote unquote weaponize his audience for is for shit like in This Week in Stupid, where he says to go start a hashtag to fuck with J.J. Abrams.
Oh, Abrams.
Yeah. Or Abrams, yeah. To go fuck with him by telling him to resign
the people
because
didn't like Last Jedi is scared of women. No.
Yeah, well, that's the only time that I've ever seen him use his audience or pressure his audience to do something.
This is the Star Wars fan base. Their idol has recently died. Like, one of the most strongest female characters, Princess Leia. Like, if they had a problem and were scared of women, why would they watch Star Wars and dress up like Leia? Like, in drag, by the way.
I think that the way that people are afraid of women is specifically it's someone instituting or replacing the word feminism with women. They mean men are afraid of feminism, and that's correct. They should be.
Yeah, they should be.
It's a totalitarian movement.
And another thing is, like, in the new film, I don't know if I noticed this in the first one, but Rey was really wooden in this. I don't know if
she's been terrible. She's been terrible for both movies. It's funny because Mundane Matt just said it in a video I watched of his where he disagrees that she is a Mary Sue. Dude, she might be the biggest Mary Sue I've seen in a fucking movie. She is a ridiculous fucking Mary Sue.
I was hoping that they would actually reduce her to some kind of, because it's the second film. It's meant to be where everybody's in their darkest point. They didn't really do that with her. I mean, she was getting tempted.
She had no struggle. She's had no struggle in either movie.
She tried to convey it, but it was like, you knew she was going to not, like, go to the dark side.
I don't even know how, like, describing her character. It's like you know, like a lemon juice that you would put on, like, a fried fish, fish fry.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
it's basically squirting a shitload of that in your mouth and just gulping it, and you're just like, like, that's fucking her character. It is disgusting, repulsive, because she is literally perfect at fucking everything to a cartoonish level.
You know who is good? John Boyega's character, Finn. I like his character, and they underuse him consistently.
Sure,
he's supposed to be a main character.
I actually like Kylo Ren. I actually like Kylo
I liked
Ren.
Him. Yeah.
I think he actually has a lot more going for him as a character than practically anyone on the screen, and especially Poe, who they abandon. Except for to give him, like, a shitty love interest that everyone, like, universally hates.
He has a love interest?
Yeah, the fucking Asian chick.
No, that's with Finn.
Oh, Finn, right? I'm confusing Poe and Finn. Yeah,
but it's pretty clear that Finn doesn't like her anyway. I mean, why would you like that? She's annoying and she's ugly.
Yeah. Poe Dameron.
Her sister was
Dameron.
hotter, the one who died.
Yeah, the sister was hot though. I will say that. Who sacrificed her life in that shitty action sequence where they bombed a cruiser that had no shields.
Well, they destroyed. Well, that's the thing with Star Trek. I mean, Star Wars is like the closer you get to the ship, the shields seem to be useless. But the farther out you are, the better they are, which doesn't really seem to make much sense.
Yes and no, but at the same time, like they never properly set that up to where the bomb, because they dropped only like a selection of bombs in one area.
Blew it up.
And it blew it up completely. And as far as I've seen, that's never been true. Like the bombers in the past films have always taken like several runs to actually do real damage to a cruiser. So I think that people praise the action in that movie. I thought it was fucking terrible.
But what was good about that one scene was Poe destroying the turret so they couldn't fight back. That made sense.
Yeah, that was fine. That was fine.
But he didn't destroy the shields. Unless it didn't have
The only thing that I didn't like was the stupid, like, where he called in and mocked the guy, the leader of the New Order. That was stupid as shit.
Why did he do that? Why would you do that?
It's because they scripted him to do it. That's why he did it. They scripted him to do that, and it was shit.
Another thing is that Rose, like, she becomes this important character. Like, she's just a maintenance person. Like, why is she suddenly... Rose.
Rose, yeah.
And why is she suddenly near the end in those speeders? I know, spoilers.
Diversity.
Well, yeah, I know that, but like, I'm trying to
chubby, not good-looking Asian girl.
Yeah,
that's why. It's literally her existence.
Talk within the film's logic. I know the reasons why.
There is no logic.
Well,
there is no logic. That's the whole point. That's why that movie bombed in multiple markets, because it was shit.
She's a nobody. And then she stops Finn from doing the ultimate sacrifice. I mean,
that I swear to God, when I saw that in theaters, I was like, holy shit. The person that wrote this is a full-blown fucking ideologue. There's no question, because they're subverting what is a trope, and they did it intentionally, and they allowed that SJW shit female character to do it instead.
He didn't even need to do that, I think.
That movie was it was so propagandistic that my friend afterward, who is a total normie, I saw it with a friend of mine, he's a total normie. He goes that the fact that she stopped him, he looked at me and he said, they did that intentionally, didn't they, for like a women empowerment thing? And I said, absolutely yes. He's a full-blown fucking normie. And he saw that.
The thing is, they could have just... the way I would have written it was, Finn has one cannon left that works, and he does what Luke did in the first ever film, and uses either the Force or through blind luck, shoots through this massive cannon and blows it up, rather than dying like black characters usually do. That would have been a good subversion.
And it would have been good for
this character,
Finn, I think, to die there. I think, because they actually, I read earlier that they planned to do that they wanted to kill off his character.
I don't think killing him off would have been good, considering they built him up to be like a love interest for Rey.
I guess. I don't even know at this point. The whole movie is so fucked, or the whole series is so fucked, that I don't even think, I would love to see what J.J. Abrams could fucking manage.
You mentioned,
it would be hilarious.
You mentioned that he had his character was rewritten there. I think his entire character is just nothing but the problem with rewrites. He's been rewritten several times, because I remember when they first announced it, John Boyega was like top billed for the new generation. But then when the film came out, it wasn't that he was barely in it, his character was barely a thing, and it was Rey. Even though all the like advertisements had him with the lightsaber, so you think, oh, he's going to be the Jedi or something like that, and nope, just some guy.
There was a lot of fucking like foreshadowing in that in the first movie, and it went absolutely nowhere. And I think you're absolutely right about the rewrites.
Abrams actually had something there that they could have built on and improved.
Oh, absolutely. The only thing that I'll give to the second movie is that it went from where I didn't care about anybody, and part of me disliked Kylo Ren as a character, to actually liking Kylo Ren more as a character. I think that was the only thing the second movie did successfully. Outside of that, it was a colossal fucking failure for the whole franchise. And in my opinion, I've said this before, that the whole franchise, it should go to the Old Republic. It should be Jedi versus Sith, with Republic and Sith Order backing, or the Sith Empire backing, and it should just be like a fucking war movie. You don't need the fucking the going around space. You don't need any of that. You need a ground war on some planet where the Empire and the Republic are fighting, and you have Sith and basically use the war scenes from do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I do.
Take the war scenes, the actual war scenes from Game of Thrones where they're on the battlefield and there's that kind of interpersonal activity, and then insert Star Wars. That's all that you need to do. And I think that those movies would be...
That's pre-KOTOR.
Sure, whatever. Just something like that. I think the greatest example that you would have would be the Old Republic, because then it's, or even the New the original trilogy, that series of just, well, actually you can't do that because there's no real resistance. So maybe so. I don't even know. But you just have the Resistance or the Republic versus the fucking Sith. Just do that. And I think those movies would reset the entire franchise. They would be blockbuster, billionaire selling, ticket selling bonanzas. And it would revolutionize the entire franchise, and it would introduce a whole new generation of fans. But the problem is that they're doing what they're doing now. They're trying to rehash the old movies and insert SJW politics, and it's a fucking colossal disaster. And the movies are trash and whatever. Like, I don't know what to tell them. Like, at no point in time has any entity outside of the fringe games that people like to cite that have done well, and Star Wars: The Old Republic as an MMO, like, they're the only chances that this franchise has in any kind of future, and that have been able to use the source material well.
Before we move on, like, when Rose, bringing it back to Rose, when she did that stupid thing when she bashes Finn out the way, I can't help but think she's a liability on the battlefield. Like, no other soldier would have done that.
No soldier would have done that, period.
Well, she wasn't a soldier.
She was scripted to do that. That's literally why she did it. She was scripted to do it. It makes no sense at all outside of, oh man, this will be so hella progressive when we have this female character prevent this male character from being able to sacrifice himself, and then we have a female character do it. It's like, it's pure ideology. That's all it is.
They could have just had Luke do it, when he was like projecting himself.
That was such garbage.
I know.
He should have showed up. He should have fought.
His X-Wing was there.
Yeah, it was so terribly written.
That was
and
fan
pointless.
Service in the end. God.
I guess it was fan service. I am a fan, and I wasn't satisfied.
I mean, the X-Wing in the water.
I've given up.
Like, they should have.
I've given up on Star Wars as a franchise. I really do love the lore of Star Wars. I really do love it, but there is 5 people in this world that are capable of ever doing anything with it. They look at these old movies, and the old movies I don't even think are the best Star Wars content. I like the old movies, but the fact is that there is not a person living or breathing, including George Lucas, that can recreate the magic of the original trilogy. Don't fucking bother.
I reckon Tarantino could.
No, I don't think he could. He can make a good movie, I would say, but he can't recreate the old trilogy. He can't do it. Probably no one can, and yet everyone and their grandmother thinks they're going to be able to do it, despite the fact that they're ham-fisted, talentless fucking SJW.
Anyway, moving on, Miss Angela's explaining what she means by using Sargon using his fans as a deflection. He messed up during the Spencer debate, formed the Liberalists. He then took no part in the Liberalist movement online. Well, he did, actually, in the group, I Am In It. He then gave V the title of leader because it keeps his hands clean. Wasn't that a meme? Trust me, the Liberalist
it's a meme.
Yeah, is no more than an SJW echo chamber. Really now, you have screenshots that they're all SJWs. It's a terrible fraudulent movement, and it only exists for confused Sargon fans. You're the Liberalist here. Go on.
Yeah, I think that ultimately, I think that you really are going to see people go apeshit once. And the thing is I think the whole liberalist thing is ultimately, it does ultimately depend on Sargon. I will agree there that it depends on what he wants to do with it, and if he's not going to do anything with it, then nothing's going to happen. But if he starts doing in-life events.
Well, he is.
And he starts actually, well, right, but he has to actually start showing up. He has to start speaking about it, and what he has to definitely do is start interacting with politicians and getting involved in politics. And he doesn't want to do it, but he has to start doing it. And that's going to be, I think that if he starts going to political, and by the way, he could just show up at a political rally. Nothing is stopping him. And maybe at some point I should talk to him about that and criticize him for it. Nothing is stopping him from going to a fundraiser, going to a political event, going to somebody who, because these politicians, at least in the United States, they do fundraisers, town halls, public events. They do it all the fucking time. And that's what he could do. He could show up there and it would basically start changing things, because that's how you get political, is you start showing up.
I think I agree with that. I think that's a fair comment. And I think we'll end it there, because we're nearly 2 hours in. So anyway, thank you everybody for turning up. Thanks, Lewis, for agreeing to give me a bit of your time. Hopefully you can go for your jog.
Yeah, I do have to do that, and eat as well.
And eat, and I need to drink as well. So anyway, hope everybody likes the new graphics. I know if you've been watching it in the chat. Hope people like that. That was from Free Press of Kakistan. He did that for me, Ash. And until next time, people. Oh, Carlos is late, the archaeologist. And anyway, people, until next time, I'll see you later.